In this video, we are going to record how to manipulate and deal with the data set in Power BI. This is lab 2. In this lab, we have to cover how to pivot and pivot table, how to modify the data into the table, how can we arrange the rows and columns into the table, how can we apply the transform option in the query editor. So the query editing data and modifying the data models using the query editor is basic objective of this lab. The functions of Power BI, the aggregating the data, we have analyzing the data, visualizing the data, and we can share the data and dashboards to the other customers in the organizations or other colleagues in the organizations. These are the functions of Power BI, and the component of Power BI are Power Query, in which we can use query editor to transform the data, adding the new columns, viewing the data, and we can merge the table using the query editor. We can do lots of things using Power Query. Power Pivot are the options. In Power Pivot is basically data is to be given into the format, which format is not a very comprehensive tabular format. We can unpivot that. Like suppose I have here I have company 1, company 2, company 3, company 4, and I have multiple companies. The data of the multiple companies is given to us, and the data in 2012, 2013, 2014, and so on, and and so on. So suppose we have two-dimensional data in this way, so we can unpivot this data with the help of the Power Pivot. In the Power View, we can visualize the data in the using different visuals in the reports, and we can construct dashboards of which is comprised on the several reports in the Power View. In the Power Map, we can have a complete map visuals in which the country's data with the locations and longitudes and latitudes. We can have view of the data with the help of the maps. So these are the contents of Power BI. So Power BI comprised on all of these features, but these features are already available in some different software like Microsoft Excel, but these options are consolidated in Microsoft Power BI. To what are the objectives of data transformation using the query editor, and data modification can also be done with the help of query editor. Data sets can be extended. We can add new columns. We can add, even though we can create the new tables using the query editor, as well as the data models are implementing using this. We can join the table with the help of relationships, one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, and other relationships can also be done with the help of query editor. The actual objective of this lab is to rename, modify, reorder the columns, removing groups or the set of rows, duplicating data set. We can arrange the data with the help of the sorting techniques, excluding records by filtering the data. The filtering is one of the very important objectives of this lab, in which we can extract the data from a huge databases with the help of some filters. So filtering is an important feature of this lab. Power BI desktop queries. Desktop queries, we have to load the data first from the one source and transform it later. That is one option. So the load button, if you click in the at the time of opening a data source, so we have the two buttons. One option is the load button, and other option is the transform button. If I click on the load button, the data will be loaded into the Microsoft Power BI, and we can transform it later on. But at the same time, if I click the transform button, so instead of the data view, we will have in the query editor. The query editor is a separate window. In the query editor, we can build the different model using different queries. How can we jump to the query editor? So now I'm just demonstrating it. Just click the get data button and pick a source from where you want to get the data. Suppose I want to get the data from the Excel source, click connect. And this Excel file is to be loaded and the data is extracted from. If you want to extract the data from all of the tables, select them. If you want to load the data from the specific table. So these are the two options. One is the load button. If you want to load the data into the Microsoft Power BI data view, so you can have. If you want to transform the data into the query editor, you can click this option. So if I am just clicking the load option, so you can see that the data is loaded in the data view. The process of loading the data. After completing that, we can see all the tables that we have loaded on the right side. And within the table, what are the fields? That fields can also be seen here. These are the three views. In the first view, we can have report. So this is the report area. And we can add pages to we can add pages to the report. The second option is the data view. In the data view, we can have the data. This is the data. So this is not a query editor. This is the data view, and we can see the relationships by if we have the relationships among different tables. So you can see that we have one-to-many relationship. We have one-to-one relationship, and the different tables are connected with the relationships. So the relationships can also be seen here. So this is the one option. If you want to move and switch to the query editor from right now, to this button, transform button. So you have to click on the transform button. The transform button will let you go into the query editor. So this is the one option to move to the query editor. I'm just clicking this query button. And you can have all the tables inside this PBIX files are acted as a separate query. So the one table, stock table, is a stock query. Invoice table is an invoice query. I can modify any of the table with the help of these queries. So these are not the tables. Here, these are the queries. I want to modify the table, any table with the help of these queries. You can even duplicate any table. Suppose I want to modify the stock table, to just right click on the table and duplicate. If you make a duplicate copy of this table, now I can do any change. Suppose I want to delete this column, just remove. And if I want to filter some rows, with the help of the query editor, you can do that. Even though you can remove the column, uh, you can revert any of the query editor action. These actions can be reverted by just clicking this cross button. So all the steps that I implement into the query editor to modify the data, that step will be reflected here. Suppose I want to click here, keep rows. Suppose I want to keep only the 100 rows from this table, or 30 rows or 20 rows from this table. So just click 20 rows. Now I have only these 20 rows. If I want to revert this action, just click this. If you click this button, your action will be reverted. Suppose I just clicking that. If I want to revert the removing column action, click this, and so on. So in the same way, you can modify the data. If you feel that was a raw mistake, you can revert that. So the stock table is remains as it is, but the stock 2 query, this is not the table, this is stock 2 query, I modify the data into the stock 2 query, and you can rename it. It is a modified table or the modified data. Now, after completing all actions in a query editor, you have to close option. Close and apply, only close. If you have closed, then all of the changes made during this process will not be saved. And yeah, I am just clicking the option of close and apply. So we can see that a new table will be reflected here. And this is table number 1. No, stock table modified. This is the table which I created in the query editor. So it is now a separate table, and this separate table I can use the data of this new table into any visuals of my report. Now again, I want to modify client table. So if you want to modify the client table in the home ribbon, you have to click on transform data. Transform data button, transform data, you will be in the query editor. In all of the queries are there. If you want to modify the client table, to just make a copy of the client table. So I am making duplicate. Now rename. This is the modified client table. And I want to modify some things here. Suppose I want to remove some alternate rows, remove rows and remove alternate rows. Starting from 5, the number of rows to remove 5 and the number of rows to keep 5. So alternatively, the 5 rows will be deleted and the new table or the new query is generated. Now, if I want to save this, the reflection of this query, I will click on the save and apply, close and apply. If I want to revert this action, just close this button. And now I am going to close this query. So you can see now the changes made in the table will be reflected here. What that changes are apply changes. If the changes are not reflected here, you have 2 buttons here. Discard changes, apply changes. So I am going to click on the apply changes so that new modified client table will be reflected here in this query editor. Have not been applied. Now you can see the client modified table is there. In the client modified table, we can see that all the columns are there, but I have skipped 5 rows alternatively. So you can see here are the very few rows, only 31 rows are here. Only these rows are here. Very few rows are here in this table, because the remaining rows is the alternatively to the 5 rows, I have deleted that. So this is the way of working in the query editor. And now we have to switch to the different topics in query editor. How can pivot and pivot table? How can we make relationship using the table, using some options in the query editor? So these sort of things will be covered here in this presentation. Query editor consists of 6 elements. There are the 4 ribbons: home, transform, add columns, and view. These are the different options, and I'm not going to describe each and every option here, but you can see that the query editor window in this slide. It has 4 ribbons: home, transform, add, view, and we have all the query lists. You can see here the data in the query window can be shown in the middle pane, and all actions are seen on the right pane of the query editor. Now in the bottom line we have a status bar which shows how many columns we have in the data set and how many rows are there. There is a one important thing is a formula bar. The formula bar is just like as a Excel formula sheet. I will work the formula bar whenever I will define DAX DAX language. So DAX is a complete language which will be described in lab number 3, and the DAX stands for data analysis expressions. So we have to, whatever we are doing in the query editor can also be done with the help of the functions and the formulas in this formula bar. The different options are here. I am not going to one by one switching to these options because in the previous lab, in the previous recording, I did that. But I want to do some actions here. What we can do with the query editor: renaming column, reordering column, removing columns, merging some columns, removing records, or duplicating records, filtering the data sets. The merging columns. This is the first option that we want to describe. Open the chapter 6 example 1 PBIX in Microsoft Power BI. Now this contains one table. This is the base table. Click on the query editor in the home ribbon, transform button. Now we are in query editor. We are facing this error. This error is indicating that the car sales.xls in C drive, but we have to change that because this file is not in the C drive, it is in F drive. So I want to change this. Browse and car sales data, open, click OK. Now we have the data for the countries base data we have here. In this data we have several columns: the name, the item, the kind, the hidden, and we have a make column. What do you want to do? We want to merge make and model column, and we want to create a new column by merging these two columns in the query editor. So what is to do? You have to click on the header of the column that you want to merge, make and model. And then in the transform button, click on merge column button. This is the merge column button. And separator. So we have to choose a separator that by which we want to merge. Suppose I want to merge the colon in between the merging two columns. So the first row is Rolls Royce colon camera. This will be the new content of the new column, the first row. Now the new column name is merge. You can change the name of the new column as make model, and with the help of colon we are going to join these two. So a new column will be generated. The name of the new column will be the make and model, and that new column will be reflected at the last position. So these are the two make and model. No, the new column is basically the merged column. The previous two columns are now replaced and new column make model is there. And you can see that the two quantities which were be in two separate columns are now in one column, and that joined with the colon sign. If you want to save this query, then in the home button, close and apply, you will have a reflection of that query into your data model. These are the different separators which can be used to merge the colon operator. As we use, the two values will be joined with the colon. You can separate the two values by comma. You can separate the two values with the equal to sign or by space or by tab. So that will be the 5 spaces will be generated if you separate the two values with the tab, or you can specify your own custom separator. In Query Editor, there is an option of keeping or removing some rows. If we want to keep or remove some rows, we can. This is the option of keep rows. Keep top rows, keep bottom rows. Suppose I want to keep bottom 10 rows. I want to keep the range of rows. We want to keep the duplicates. Only those rows will be retained which has duplicates. All those rows will be removed which are the unique rows. So duplicate rows keep, other rows will be eliminated. All those rows will be kept into the data view which only has error. If you want to debug the error, this option will be the suitable for us. If you want to apply the number filter to keep some rows, or a specific condition is to be applied for removing or extracting some rows. So we have a context menu here. Suppose I want to keep the sale price column with the few values. So just click on the number filter. Number filter has multiple options: equal to, does not equal to, greater than or equal to, less than. These are the different operators. I am just clicking on equal to some specific number. Suppose 88000. I want to keep this row having the value 888000. If you have another operator, this is the logical operator, or and if you have another query or another condition is greater than or less than or equal to. Suppose I want to keep some rows which has 1100 and thousands. Okay. This table is empty. Means what? As I place the criteria, that criteria will not be fulfilled by the any row. So I have to remove the filter because this criteria is not fulfilled by any row. If you want to keep it by some number like equal to and not equal to, is greater than or less than, is greater than 5000. Okay. Now you can see that the several rows we have which has a value which are greater than 5000. So that is the way you can place a number filter on any numeric column. If you want to make any column, convert the column into the uppercase letter. Suppose we want to convert this make column, all the field values with the uppercase letter, then we have to click on the make column, and then in the transform ribbon, click format. This is the option we have here. In the format option, we have a pop-up menu: lowercase, uppercase, capitalize, trim, clean, add prefix, add suffix. If you want to convert this into the uppercase, we can see it. Now all the entries in this column converted into the uppercase. If we want to revert this, just click this option. This is reverted. Now if we want to add a prefix in this column, like I want to add a prefix star before the each entry of this column. So you can see that prefixes are added. If you want to add suffix, then I want to place star. So you can see that a star is below, before, or up, after the entry we have in this column. These are the different options which are available in Power BI query editor, and in the next recording we will cover to the pivoting and pivoting table.